Hello, everybody. All right, so coming out with a course. I'm really trying to figure out where to attack. I mean, I think what I really want to do is start with modes, start with the major scale, go through them, tackle so many modes, scales, chord progressions, to allow you to solo over absolutely anything with confidence. Building chord progressions eventually from there, understanding chord extensions, all the flat nines and sharp 11s and 13s, what they all mean, how to put them together, even tackle, a little bit of blues, and then also like chord progressions that change keys and how to change keys along with it. Just how to recognize all this stuff at the drop of a hat. Now, that can start generally at a beginner level. What I don't want to do is I don't want to do a beginner course. And this is the reason why. And this is what I would worry about beginner courses or trying to learn as a beginner from YouTube. There is a physical barrier when we're first picking up the guitar that can be very difficult to figure out. I mean, for me, I've been teaching for almost 20 years now, all different levels, all over the world, actually. And with beginners, the biggest setback is not understanding the guitar. The biggest setback is the physical part of it. Figuring out how not to oversqueeze, how not to overpick, right? If you're oversqueezing and overpicking, it'll take you literally up to 5 or 6 times longer to learn something than if you have someone to show you exactly how to meet the physical, guidelines of playing the guitar. Then from there, you can start moving forward. Now, with everybody, it's different. Could be the right hand, could be holding the pick, could be whatever it is. The problem with that now is, and this is something that I've run into with a few beginner students very recently, and this is why it's been sort of in my mind, is I had a student that every time they played, they kind of brought their thumb up, and sort of pressed their fingers up against their palm, kind of played like that. And that will slow you down from progressing so much. It's ridiculous. So I kept having to say, no, pull your thumb down and sort of pinch the guitar. Really use that thumb muscle. We're not using this thumb muscle at all. And that is the bulk of the strength, That press back here gives your fingers that little bit of freedom, especially once they get stronger and strong enough. So it was only one lesson a week, but I would say 4 or 5 weeks of constantly telling them to have to move their thumb back. So now if you learn that in a beginner course or on a YouTube video, whatever it is, that I'm supposed to bring my thumb down here, right? That you're not, we're not, as beginners, physically attuned to what this feels like versus what this feels like, right? It's not that wildly different. Now, when we start getting better, this feels incredibly difficult and this feels way better. So the problem is if you don't have someone that can sort of point out the exact detail of what you're doing wrong to make your progression more difficult and try to bring it back to something that's going to allow you to progress more quickly, it's going to be very difficult to try and figure that out on your own. So I suggest, if you're just picking up the guitar or if you're having a tough time progressing, if you feel like it hurts your hand, you're not able to play quickly, whatever these setbacks are, or if you've just been self-taught for a little while and you want to start progressing and you're not sure how, and you just want an assessment of how you're playing, I suggest finding someone to help you with that, finding someone who sort of specializes in that. And that's been a bulk of my beginner teaching and even my more advanced teaching. Some shredder students that want to break a certain speed barrier. I'm certainly not the only one that does it. So that's not what I'm trying to tell you guys. But as a beginner, and one of the things that I was doing, especially while I was living in Los Angeles, was trying to get from somebody who would have just picked up the guitar and learn it through YouTube, what they would accomplish in a year, trying to scale that back to, just a couple of months, because they needed to be stage ready, and cutting out most of those problems. And I think the big reason that people don't want to jump into that is because we have a bunch of free stuff on YouTube to watch and learn from, but this one specific area, I really feel like, especially the physical part, and then if you want to dive into the music theory part, but the physical part in the beginning, have somebody that can specifically show you that, so that you can now get to a place where you can play freely. And then maybe from there, all you really want to do is just play songs, who knows, in a cover band by yourself, just kind of jam it through. But at least it won't be difficult for you to play and start playing harder and harder stuff without necessarily having to go back, depending on how far you wanted to progress. But maybe you don't have to go back to that teacher, but just to get you to that place of knowing, how much pick, how much pressure, how to hold everything, what your hands should actually be doing. Just because guitar is very difficult from anything else that we've ever done in our lives. The other thing too is diving into music theory. It's incredibly daunting, and that's where I think I want the course that I'm going to kind of get to is to try to go and the reason is music theory. If you're just trying to go into music theory, chord theory, scales, and then maybe even like a little bit more advanced, that it can be incredibly daunting, but there can be a level that you can get to where you can sort of start self-teaching. Now, your self-teaching will go a little bit slower. What I really like about teaching and teaching this stuff especially is this is really in the wheelhouse for me and a lot of other guitar teachers of what we're using every single day. You know what I mean? So for us to say like, oh, we're doing this, it's very easy to go back and find a student that doesn't quite get it and just break that barrier very quickly. You know what I mean? Rather than if you're sort of looking at, a composition textbook or even like a guitar theory textbook or something where it's not in a personal way, because my course will be interactive, where if you ever get stuck on something that you feel like you can't break through, me and a few other assistants will be there to answer those questions, so that you're not just given information and let go. That those barriers can just be broken a little bit quicker and a little bit quicker, and then hopefully getting you to a point where you can. The goal would be, hopefully to get you, it depends how fast you want to learn and how advanced you want to get to a point where you're doing a lot of learning on your own now, and you're doing a lot of dissecting other guitar players on your own, other guitar solos and all that stuff. And then you'll grab like a guitar mentor for like some other stuff to just, if you ever hit a plateau in there, so that's my thought on beginners. Beginners not learning necessarily online and really having someone that can show you all of those physical things. I mean, it's amazing. If I just do this, I've been playing forever. If I put my palm back here, which is the biggest mistake that most beginners make, and just do this, I could barely get that through, right? But you wouldn't know, because that is more comfortable, because it's sort of like grabbing it like a baseball bat or like a hammer or something like that. Where if I just move down, then I start just like flying through. So just my thoughts, something I wanted to put out there. If anybody is looking for Skype lessons, I am going to be traveling through Scotland and then through Spain for a little while. So I'm going to be lowering my Skype price for a little bit, just to kind of get me through some of that traveling and sort of save and prep up for the course that I'm coming out with. But other than that, I'm definitely not the only one that can teach this sort of stuff. You just want to make sure that you're getting a guitar teacher and not just someone that can play the guitar, and make sure that they're able to teach that information. But awesome. Thanks, everybody.